Here we go. Hello, everyone. How you going? So I have just clicked over to live. So I'm just going to wait for a minute or two to make sure that I can see that people are jumping on and that you can hear and see me. So I'll just double check my notes, make sure everything's good to go. And hopefully people are starting to jump on. Now, if you can hear me, please say hello. Tell me where you're from. I'd love to see some names in there and let me know that you're joining. Here we go. Awesome. People are starting to join. Awesome. Hey, Candace, how you going there? Cool. So we're off and racing. This is great. Alrighty, so a little bit of housekeeping. So the first thing is that if you haven't clicked the link that sends you through to ask for your name, could you please maybe pop out and do that? Because I love seeing your name. So I can see Kylie's there. Oh, the High Country Kylie. It would be beautiful there at the moment. Hey, Amy. Hi, Andrea. How you going? So I can't see your name and sometimes it will say Facebook user. So if you can click on that link, it will help me so much because I love referring to you all by your name. Okay, let's get going. Hey, Jackie, so good to see you. Alrighty. Well, tonight we're going to go through some awesome, epic amounts of information when it comes to inflammation. So I'm really stoked about this workshop because it's a wonderful way for me to basically share with you a collation of sort of 15 years of my life and work and research, and then to be able to share that with you in this space. So I'm really, really stoked that we get to share this time, and also to let you know a little bit more about cultured wellness, how we can help you. And this evening, especially, I want to, really go down and bust some myths on the ketogenic diet, and also, bust some myths on the fact that there's nothing you can do if you've got an autoimmune condition, or there's nothing you can do if you've been diagnosed with a chronic condition. I really want you to come away from this evening knowing that there is so much that you can do. And I want you to feel empowered and inspired and all of those sorts of things. So I'm really, really stoked. I love doing these workshops. So I'm so happy. Hey, Stacey, Agnes Waters. Okay, so Stacey, since I've moved to the Sunshine Coast 5 years ago, my fave place has been to go to that eco place up in Agnes Waters. I love it. All righty. Hi, Kirsty. Echuca. Oh, I love it. It's so cool. Someone's from Budrum. That's not far away at all. And Gembrook in Victoria. So, and Bribey Island. Awesome. So cool to see you all. All righty. So let's get going. So over the next 10 days, I really want to get this concept across to you that a ketogenic diet utilizing cultured foods and the superpower of getting into ketosis is absolutely the most amazing space for you to learn about and for you to apply to your life to support you with pain, inflammation, and fatigue. So I want to bust the myths about a ketogenic diet and help you to understand how important it is for you. So it's a cool 10 days that we're going to have. Now, we're going to be going through inflammation tonight. So I'm going to break down what is ketosis. I'm going to talk about inflammation in the body, and I'm going to talk about some of the foods that cause inflammation to our gut and our body. And so we're going to go through that secret weapon, which is those cultured foods and fermented foods and how they apply to a ketogenic diet. Now, I do have my notes. So if you see me looking down, then I'm looking at my notes. Alrighty, so the other cool thing about tonight, so listen up. So for those of you who are new to the Culture Wellness community, when we do an awesome live like this and a workshop, in each of the lives, we like to give away something to have a bit of fun, just to make sure that we can, just get excited. So for those of you who will stay on for the whole call tonight, and for those of you who really are going to engage and ask questions and respond and share your thoughts and feelings. If you are one of those people, then you will go into the draw to win one of our 8-week cooking classes. So it's a really good opportunity to win something for free and to start to become involved with all of our online learning. Now, some of you may see I've got an orange tongue, so just excuse that. I just took a turmeric shot to really support my cognitive function and look after my brain, and I've just realised my tongue is orange from the turmeric, so excuse my tongue. All right, but let's get going. So many of you may not know me, and many of you may not know the Cultured Wellness Company or our team. So I thought I might just do a quick introduction. So, we are a company that is absolutely dedicated to supporting people to change their lives with regards to chronic health conditions. Now, yes, gut conditions, but specifically chronic health conditions. So these long-term health conditions that unfortunately you may not have answers for, or you may not had any help with. So we do this and support our community through education, and that's what we're doing this free workshop for. We also do that through our online naturopathy clinic. So we have an incredible clinic, and it's always been online. Even pre-COVID days, it was online. It's always how Culture Wellness has been set up, because when I first started Culture Wellness 7 years ago, I wanted to be able to support people all over the world. And so it's always been online. It's always been a resource like this where I can educate people online. So it's been wonderful. We have clients from all over the world, and it enables me to do my mission and my work of supporting and reaching more people. So we also, through that, we also have, as part of the team, which is such a wonderful thing that we can do through our naturopathy clinic and through our online learnings, we have teachers, we have nutritionists, we have naturopaths, we have our admin team, we have nurses, we have an array of skills out in the Culture Wellness team to support you, which is wonderful. We've got our health coaches as well. So we can really provide support. The other thing that we have within the Culture Wellness team is that we have all been through our health journey. And so we come from a place of really knowing what's going on and really knowing what it feels like to be in that space of chronic condition, chronic inflammation and pain, and what that feels like when it really impacts your life. And I'll go into a little bit of detail about how it's impacted my life. But as you go into the Facebook group and you have a look around in the guides, there's one guide in there about meeting the team. And I really encourage you to take some time to go in there and meet all of our team members and learn about their journey and where they've come from, because it's very inspiring to see what other people have been through and to see their journey and to pop out the other side and feeling well and empowered with a whole heap of knowledge to be able to apply tools and skills to be able to care for yourself and to recover. So make the most of having us, the team, here at this time for the next 10 days. We really throw a lot of our energy and support into these workshops. So if you are new to Cultured Wellness and you're new to these workshops, then just go for it. Ask your questions, type away. And, as part of these workshops, I'll be doing discovery calls as well. So you can reach out and you can tell us more about you and how, we can help you and how what's been happening for you. And we can really be able to give you some great one-on-one tailored advice during that discovery call. So lots of resources for you during this time in the workshop. Okay. So I have a long history of pain and inflammation. And I will go into that in detail as we go over this 10 days, and I'll talk to you about little stories and things about my health history. So, but once again, in the Facebook group, if you want to learn more about how Culture Wellness started, there's a beautiful little video in there about how it all began. And so once again, go over and have a look at the video. It's it's amazing that I had my own health concerns. Oh, I've gone a bit blurry. There it is. I had my own health concerns and my own journey, but of course it wasn't until my children got sick. It wasn't until my son was extremely unwell with significant gut imbalances that affected his brain, and it inflamed his brain so much that he couldn't speak. He just couldn't develop. He couldn't grow. He couldn't learn. And my brain was so inflamed from my gut issues and my autoimmune conditions that, it takes until your kids get sick for you to really kind of sit up and go, wow, what's going on here? And so, through sorting out my son and getting my son Noah and helping him through his journey, I was able to apply those skills for myself and go from, taking 8 Panadols a day and about 8 Nurofen a day, constantly being in pain, always at the chiropractor, always at some specialist, always trying to find an answer for what was going on and just not knowing what to do. It's amazing to sort of pop out the other side and see that journey and the learnings. So a little bit about me. I come from a background of education. So my greatest passion is education, which is why we put on these workshops. So I come from education background in academia. So I was at Monash University and University of South Australia for quite some time, and had the great benefit of being able to study a PhD at Monash University whilst I was lecturing there. And so I was given the benefit, and I was really blessed to be able to learn how to think with curiosity and how to build research skills and how to solve problems and how to be able to learn and apply. And so my background in research and my background in education has been pivotal for building, what Culture Wellness is today. And then I went on and did further research and study in the area of integrative nutrition and in this gut space. But I've been teaching since I was about 19. I started my sort of teaching career in outdoor education. So I used to, in a previous life, travel the world teaching rock climbing and whitewater rafting and going out on hikes with, either kids or adults. And so nature is a big part of my life, and it certainly saved me. So you'll always hear me talking about the healing power of nature. And so education is a key pillar of my skill set and research, and being able to break down really complex sort of understandings and being able to make it easy for people to learn. So that's why I love doing these things as well. And then, yes, the rest of the team, we have practitioners. So we have our naturopaths who prescribe all of our medicinal herbs and supplements. And we have also our nutritionists, our health coaches in integrative nutrition. We have 2 nurses on the team. We have beautiful Lily in our admin area, and Jade and Gabby, our naturopaths, and also, a beautiful team to really support everyone. So, yeah, that's basically the crux of Cultured Wellness. Okay, so we're here to solve problems for you. We're here to be curious for you and to give you actionable steps and solutions. So let's get started. I'm just going to head on over and have a look at some of these questions. So people have got problems with inflammation. Yes. So Jody, you said that personal experience is almost always missing in the medical space. They also don't have the understanding that nutrition can have on your health. Yeah, Jody, I couldn't agree more. And so we're going to dive into ketosis now, and I'm going to get going from the get-go and talk about ketosis. And I couldn't agree more, because I've been living a ketogenic lifestyle for over 10 years now, which means I've been practicing ketosis and learning about all the nuances of ketosis for over 10 years. And so I do find it difficult when we have practitioners or people in the medical space. As you said, Jody, I find it really hard when there's a diss on the ketogenic diet, or when it's like, oh yes, no, we've got to be careful of fermented foods, or we've got to watch out for these things. And it's like, well, unless you've applied this knowledge, unless you've practiced it, unless it's become part of your life and you've learned those key pillars and you're able to tweak them and learn, and then as you get into clinic and you're applying them for a 3-year-old, and you're applying them for an 80-year-old, and you're applying them for a 40-year-old premenopausal woman, and you're applying them for a 60-year-old menopausal woman, or you're applying it for a 16-year-old, daughter or child, you don't fully understand, and you can't flex that muscle of solving problems in this space until you actually have the knowledge and the clinical experience to do it, which is what we have at Culture Wellness. So we can really understand and we can tweak it. So let's dive into the benefits of ketosis, because unfortunately out there's this sort of, keto diet, and it's all about bacon, and it's all about cheese, and it's all about, just getting the shakes and getting the ketone esters, and it's all about powders, and it just drives me insane, because that's not what the ketogenic diet's about. And it misses the most important thing about the ketogenic diet, which is to drop inflammation in your body. So the ketogenic diet has many benefits. One of the greatest benefits, which is why it's become so popular and why so many people have jumped on the keto train, is that it promotes weight loss. And so a lot of people are really into this space, because a lot of people want the quick pill, they want the quick fix, they want instant weight loss. They don't understand that all that weight they're holding is actually inflammation, and your body is storing those toxins and that inflammation as what we perceive it to be weight. And they don't understand how to get rid of that. They don't understand how to flip off that inflammatory switch within the body. They just see it as weight coming on and off, and that ketosis is great for weight loss. But it's so much more than that. But it is great for losing inflammation, which which most people call weight loss, but I call it inflammation. You're losing toxins from your body, which is a great thing. The mental clarity that you get from a ketogenic state is phenomenal. So this has been a big one for me. So I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that I had probably from 2 years old. I had a huge, big kind of episode when I was 13, where I was hospitalized for a couple of weeks, and I had viral encephalitis. My brain swelled up significantly, and I didn't understand at the time, but I had a condition called PANDAS, which is a autoimmune condition that affects the brain and causes neurological symptoms and causes inflammation. But I didn't know that, because I had that episode 2 years before this condition was even sort of announced and classified. And so that episode was at 13. And from that space on, I lived in chronic inflammation and didn't understand what was happening to my body. And when I was 38, going through this journey with my son, I finally got to understand what had happened to my body. I finally got to break down and get the pathway of how I got to that point of being hospitalized, and I couldn't walk and I couldn't speak, and I had to learn and read and write again, and I had so many significant issues, but I didn't understand what that meant. No one told me what viral encephalitis was. I didn't understand my brain was inflamed. I didn't understand all of these things. And so only when I was 38, And that was after I flew to America with my son to learn more about neurological conditions that are affected by inflammation. Hello, brain fog. Hello, memory loss. Hello, is this baby brain 20 years later? No, it's not. So I went to a functional neurology clinic in the States, and my son Noah and I were both finally given the appropriate blood tests and the appropriate testing to understand what was happening. I'm 46 this year, so that was a while ago. But I knew from around probably about 6 years before that, 4 years before that, that I possibly had PANDAS. In Australia, it was just diagnosed off of symptoms, and it wasn't until I got to the States and the appropriate testing did I actually get my diagnosis. But I'm grateful for having my autoimmune condition. It doesn't define me at all now. I don't have any symptoms from it, but I'm grateful for the learnings. And this is the beautiful space that you get to once you move through learning about how to look after your body, how to bring down the inflammation, and how to get over your symptoms and all of your chronic health conditions. You learn to see what's happened to you from a lens of being grateful and all the learning lessons out of it, because you just become a better person from it. And it just elevates you to such a wonderful space. So it's very exciting and very empowering and very, very hopeful. Okay, so the other thing that ketosis does is it gives you that mental clarity. It switches on that cognitive function. And for me, having a brain condition since I was like 2, it was like a game changer for me. I did like 3 degrees. I did, honours. I studied my PhD. I did post-dip work in education. I went on and did further study, all with this like massive inflamed brain. And now being in ketosis and understanding what a functional brain should be like, I want to keep studying. I want to go back and do so much more study, because the clarity that I have is out of control. We know this through the research in ketosis and its impact on Alzheimer's especially, and how effective it is at literally flipping off that inflammatory switch in the brain to support people with Alzheimer's, ADHD, autism. The list goes on of all those neurological conditions and how ketosis can help. And the whole concept of the ketogenic diet started in the realm of epilepsy. And so once again, that's an inflammatory response in the brain, and they applied a ketogenic state, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, and people, reduce their seizures. They reduce that neurological misfire from that inflammation, and they started to, this is interesting, where else can we apply that? So the mental clarity is just phenomenal. Just that alone is a reason to drop into ketosis a couple of times a week. It will reduce your blood pressure significantly. It will curb food and sugar cravings. This is a big one, and I'll go into that later. It reduces those seizures, and it has such significant support on hormone health. So if you're endometriosis, if you've got significant hormone imbalances, you've got the hot sweats, you've got the night sweats, you've got the angry pants, you've got the absolute mood swings, you've got all of it going on in regards to your hormones, the feeling heavy, the fluid retention, the cramping, all of it can really be supported by being in ketosis. But the huge thing about being in ketosis is this reduction of inflammation. Now, remember, inflammation can be holding weight. It can be brain fog. It can be having, pain throughout your body. Inflammation can be the sort of set point, or what happens when you come out of or have an autoimmune condition. Inflammation is basically anything where your body's not humming, where it's not feeling right. So really kind of sit with it and think, I think my body is inflamed. I think there's something going on with my body. Now, inflammation's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. We have acute inflammation, which is awesome, because it pushes all those white blood cells to the area that has been hurt. So I come from a sporting background, and as you'll learn, sport literally saved me because it was the one thing that kept me going amongst all of my health concerns. But I had all sorts of accidents. I fell off mountain bikes. I had concussions from my rock climbing adventures. I have broken my ankles numerous times playing netball. I've torn ligaments, you name it. I have hurt my body. And so when you have accidents, you will get acute inflammation. The area will swell. It will bruise. You get all of those things happening. And that's awesome. Thank you, body. That's exactly what we want to happen. But what we don't want to happen is that it turns into chronic, long-term inflammation and your immune system just doesn't turn off the switch. And it just sits there and it's just, humming along and it's causing problems and you never feel great and you never feel really bad. You just, bleh. And that's the chronic inflammation that we want to address, that unfortunately most people have at this point in time, and especially this winter, post-COVID, post-flight viruses, post-flu, all of those kinds of things. We see, so many people with this chronic inflammation that just won't go away. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing this chronic inflammation. So let's have a look at what ketosis actually does in your body. What is your state of ketosis? Awesome. Sorry, I got a bit distracted over here. Any studies that show a ketogenic diet helps with speech? That is a really great question. So there are quite a lot of studies with regards to cognitive function and Alzheimer's. And as you know, when someone has Alzheimer's, they lose speech. There's also a lot of studies with regards to MS and ketogenic diet. And Dr. Terry Walls, man, she's my hero. And she has done some incredible research on the ketogenic diet and specifically MS. And Dr. Terry Walls, holy smokes, like as a physician and as a research fellow at a major university hospital in the States, she got MS. And she realized that she worked within a field of medicine or worked within medicine, and it didn't have the answers for her MS, for her condition, her chronic, debilitating condition where she was kind of declined so much that she was in a lying down wheelchair. And so she sought answers and she found the ketogenic diet and she learned about the ketogenic diet and nutrition and she started to apply it to herself. And it's just the most wonderful story. And I highly recommend that you go and read her book and her story. She nourished herself. She got into a state of ketosis and she was able to flick off that inflammatory switch. And then she was able to slowly but surely rehabilitate back to walking and back to running marathons and riding her bike and having a quality of life. She went back to work and now she heads up a research department solely focused on the ketogenic diet and solely focused on MS. Now you lose speech function in MS and you lose speech function in when you have Alzheimer's. And so there is research in those areas. So have a look into that. Alrighty, so where are we up to? I love all your questions. Candace, are you keeping up? Make sure you let me know if I have missed anything because there's lots and lots of questions here and I'll get into them. And also, I will never have a chance to get all to all of your wonderful questions. And so I will be doing sort of drop-in lives and follow-ups in the Facebook group, just going through and just solely focusing on answering your questions. Because right now I want to get the research going, but I will be getting into your questions. So, please pop them up there. Let me know that what you want to hear, and I'll either address them tonight or at another time. Okay, so I'm just getting through this because I really, really want to make sure that I get all of this. So the chronic inflammation is the achiness, the rundown. It's when you're feeling swollen, tired, you're overweight, you can't function, you feel terrible. And our body is just constantly reacting to toxins, to mold. Our body is releasing these inflammatory cytokines, which are the cells that are always causing inflammation. And I'll tell you where they come from in a minute. And it's a horrible way of life. And you're on this kind of medication train. You're constantly taking medication. And so this is where the ketogenic diet comes in. All right, it's time for me to unleash my first graphic. So I love a good diagram, and I can see there's a lot of people here that have, listened to this, similar to this lecture before. So this is another great chance for you guys to see this diagram again. So when you go into a state of ketosis, you burn fat for fuel versus glucose for fuel. That's the change. That's the simplicity of it. So within your mitochondria, which is this little mitochondria here, this one here, that little round blob in the middle, that's your mitochondria that sits inside each and every one of your cells. And our mitochondria is responsible for energy. It's responsible for how we create energy. And so we want to love up our mitochondria. We want to make sure we're doing everything to make sure our mitochondria is happy, because we want to make energy. We need to make energy. Energy is so important. So we can make ketones out of burning fat for fuel. So great quality fats like olive oil and butter and avocado and beautiful fats from, the Culture Wellness coconut yogurt, all of those fats. Or there's glucose, bananas, rice, pastas, breads, the traditional way that we perceive how we make energy. Back in my good old days when I used to race mountain bikes, we were always told to carb load, carb load, carb load, carb load. So the night before, you've got to, have a massive bowl of pasta, and you've got to really make sure that you load up on those carbs, because that's going to how you make energy. No wonder I had so many injuries and accidents at that time, because what happens is when you fuel your body in fat for fuel, where you make ketones, there's only 3 steps in that process to then come over and make ATP, which is how you make energy. That's energy. That's like classic year 10 biology, if you guys remember that. And so 3 steps. And because you're only making 3 steps, it means that there's not that much metabolic waste that your body's producing from that Krebs cycle, from that process of making ketones. Metabolic waste and endotoxins and metabolites are words that you're going to hear me talk about all the time, because they cause extreme inflammation. And so I'll introduce them in a little bit, but just imagine that you have beautiful fats for fuel to make your ketones, and it only takes 3 steps to get energy. There's no kind of byproducts. There's nothing too much for your liver to manage, for your detoxification process to manage, for your lymphatic system to manage. You're just making energy. You're making energy and you're loving it. When you eat glucose, so a banana or some pasta or something like that, it takes 11 steps for your body to go through and break that glucose down to make energy. And during those 11 steps, your body's producing all these incredible toxins and inflammation, and it's producing free radicals that we need lots and lots and lots and lots of antioxidants to mop up. We're producing inflammation. So for me, I'm carb loading the night before a race. I wake up the next morning because I've been told to carb load, right? I've been told that that's what I've got to eat because that's mainstream. So I wake up and my body is so inflamed. My legs are swollen. I feel all fluidy. I feel gross. My back hurts. I'm in pain. And I'm feeling so overwhelmed that I've got to go and do this race, feeling at the start line like I can't even do 100 meters, let alone ride a 50-kilometer mountain bike race. It's a horrible feeling. I don't trust my body. I feel like it's going to break down at any minute. And I feel so concerned and embarrassed. Like, why do I train with all of my friends? They're fine. What's going on with me? Why can't I pull it together? Why am I always injured, inflamed? And I wouldn't have called it inflamed back then. I would just call myself fat and overweight and, full of fluid. And I would have just called myself really unfit. And I had some really poor self-talk around that time. And so, I would get up on that start line. I'd be so inflamed. I'd take 4 Panadol, take my Nurofen, and then I would just put my head down and just dog-headedly go through that race, creating more inflammation, more toxins, more injuries. And it was just a disaster from the start. Whereas now I race on ketones. Now I train on ketones and I barely have any inflammation in my body. I can front up knowing that I've only taken 3 steps to do that process of making energy, and off I go. I don't have the big free radicals in my body. I don't need all those antioxidants to mop up those free radicals. My liver's okay. My lymphatic system's okay. And my cognition is buoyant. My mental health is buoyant. I feel good. I trust my body. I'm happy in my skin because finally my body works as it should, because I'm in a state of ketosis, not smashing my body with carbs. And so it's an amazing, amazing thing to understand this, that it's 3 steps or 11 steps. So your ketones create that metabolic energy, and they significantly reduce those free radicals and that metabolic waste of that glycolysis, which is the metabolism of you eating carbs and glucose. So as it says there, this is equivalent to a vehicle that gets better performance and gas mileage and creates significantly less exhaust and carbon emissions. Like, I just couldn't agree with it more. So this is awesome. Every time now you put something in your mouth, think about, is this going to support me and my mitochondria to make energy? Or is this going to make me really flat because it's going to take me 11 steps to utilize this? I don't have time for 11 steps. So there's the beauty of being in ketosis. Okay, so the ketosis flips off that anti-inflammatory switch. It activates certain pathways within our body and turns off those inflammatory pathways. So you'll hear me talk a lot about cytokines. And cytokines can either be inflammatory or they can be anti-inflammatory. And so, of course, we want to activate all of the pathways in our body that have anti-inflammatory cytokines. What we eat, how stressed we are, how poorly we sleep, how we recover from viruses, illnesses, our gut dysbiosis, how we live plays a huge part in whether our body's producing inflammatory or anti-inflammatory cytokines. And so being in ketosis, this state of ketosis where you're eating fat for fuel instead of glucose for fuel, you go from inflamed to not inflamed. And it's a phenomenal state to be in. The other thing that ketosis does is it provides what's called autophagy. Now, autophagy is where when you get into ketosis, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail about like, how do you get into ketosis? What does this all mean? And that's what we teach you on the Culture Wellness program. We teach you what to eat, how to get there, how to test it, all that kind of stuff. But, the really important thing about being in ketosis is that it enables your body to clean up all the junk cells that have been impacted by all this inflammatory mess, these inflammatory toxins, these inflammatory cytokines, metabolites, all of those sorts of things. So it's a Pac-Man, basically. You go into ketosis, and with that autophagy, it's a self-cleaning mechanism. These cells in your body goes around, cleans up the mess, gets rid of the junk, and then you don't feel inflamed. You lose that weight. You really can start to move the needle into feeling awesome. So the state of ketosis, done properly, where it's not bacon and it's not cheese and it's not downing, nut butters, because all those things will make you inflamed if your gut is leaky, which we'll get into. But if you get into a state of therapeutic ketosis, which is what we teach you at the, on the culture wellness programs, that's where you start humming. That's where things are awesome. Okay, how are we going? So well explained, as I really didn't understand ketosis. That's so cool. Awesome. All right, so let's get into my next point here. Thank you for allowing me to check my notes. It's I always just have so much that I want to talk about. Okay, so we know that ketosis is this like set point, this state of being that's just amazing, and it's our secret weapon. No one knows about it, but it's our secret weapon to change our lives. And we need to know about it, and we need to know how it affects us and how, for our individual bodies, how we get into ketosis. But let's unpack, where is this inflammation coming from? Why is my body so inflamed? And why do I need to utilize ketosis to turn off that inflammatory switch? What the hell is going on? And this was the game changer for me all these years ago, when I learned the connection between what's going on in your gut absolutely impacts your brain, your body, your immune system, your mental health, everything, your skin. Oh, my wedding day, I had so many pimples. Oh, it was horrible. I had full-on skin issues when I was 30, full-on teenage skin issues. I didn't know why that was. I didn't understand. I didn't understand that my gut was so bad that I couldn't actually detoxify the estrogen out of my body. And so then my body was just recirculating it because I was so constipated. And so because I wasn't moving those toxins out through my stool, and I wasn't moving those hormones out through my stool, it recirculated back around, and then it tried to come out in different ways, whether that is through sweat. It tried to come out through my skin with these horrible pimples. It was terrible. And so my dear body was screaming at me, please do something about this. But, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the information. I didn't have someone to be able to guide me, to show me. I was just told to go on Roaccutane and go on drugs and, just use better cleansers. That there was just no information about the gut-brain connection. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I asked this question last time I did this talk, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think as well. So your gut can either be your friend or your foe. Now, for those of you who are currently on the Culture Wellness program, so there's a few of you who I've seen popped up and you're doing the program right now, I'd love to hear, do you still think it's your friend or your foe, or how's it going? Because some of you might be a month into program, some might be 4 months into program. But knowing that your gut is the root cause of all of these inflammation issues, cognitive issues, immune issues, hormone issues, knowing that it comes from the gut, the root cause of it is from the gut. Do you think, and tell me now, write down, do you think that your gut is your friend or foe? So I'd love to see all of your answers. I'll see them pop up in a minute. So if you've got constipation, diarrhea, loose stools, if you've got bloating, if you've got gas, if you've got undigested food, if you've got food intolerances, if you've got skin conditions, eczema, basically if you've got any of those things, then your gut is going to be your foe. Your gut is where it's coming from. And so I would really love to hear from you guys. Someone said it's the devil. I know. So for some people, it's your foe. So someone said, need some motivation and inspiration to change. Well, Megan, you are absolutely in the right place. So lots of people are saying it's their foe. I mean, just the fact that if you've had COVID, for example, recently, and you just can't get it going on, then your gut is your foe. There's a lot of research at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of patterns in clinic at the moment about people having really dark days, down days, really feeling really flat post-COVID and having mental health issues. And the information's just not out there enough about you get intestinal permeability post-COVID. It really impacts your gut whilst you've got the active virus, whilst you've got it. And so when you've got a leaky gut, when you've got intestinal permeability issues, you're going to have mental health problems. You're going to have problems. And so lots of people saying that it's not, someone said it's their friend. That's awesome. Alrighty. So it's good to know, because your gut should be your friend. So let's go in, and I'm just going to have a look at this one here, because I really want to explain to you why your gut is your friend. So this is a healthy gut. The one on the left is a healthy gut, and it's showing that there's a whole heap of diverse microbes there. We've got lots and lots of beautiful microbes. There's diversity. In that microbiome. We've got the next layer down, we've got a beautiful, nice, sticky mucosal layer. And we've also got the enteric nervous system, really well, nice and sticky, and there's no leaks in it. There's no issues with it. We know that once we have this healthy microbiota here, we are producing these things called short-chain fatty acids. And short-chain fatty acids support the production of all of these great immune cells. And they support our body to be able to produce the appropriate immune response, the appropriate immune cells. But unfortunately, when we have an irritable gut, when we've got a leaky gut, when we've got a compromised gut, we have reduced diversity. You can see up the top on the right-hand side there. It's all like dark grey, horrible bacteria. We have bacteria strains that cause leaky gut. They impair the blood-brain barrier. They pull it apart. And when we get that blood-brain barrier pulled apart and we get the wrong diversity in there, suddenly we get E. coli, suddenly we get SIBO, suddenly we get, salicylate issues, histamine issues, suddenly we get parasite issues. We get all of these issues because our gut's leaky, and we're getting all of these infections and bacteria leaking through the gut lining, and then our immune cells pipe up, they stimulate, and they go into panic mode and whoa, what are we doing here? What's going on? And they start to produce those inflammatory cytokines. And those inflammatory cytokines is that chronic health. That's the inflammatory response. That's the constipation, that's the bloating, that's the gas, that's the pain, the fatigue. It's all of those symptoms, the autoimmune conditions. You can have a leaky gut for 30, 40 years, and eventually your body just gives up. And then suddenly you've got a thyroid condition, an autoimmune thyroid condition. So this is insidious. It sort of sits around, it's bad, you can kind of handle it, it's kind of okay, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so when your gut is leaky, you're getting this inflammatory response, and it's causing systemic problems in the body. So I want to be really clear on this, that autoimmune conditions and inflammatory conditions are just symptoms. They are just a collection of symptoms that have been collated through the blood work, through the testing, and through how someone feels, and then they are allocated to a condition. But it is not the root cause. So when someone comes to me and says, do you treat people with ulcerative colitis? Do you treat people with Hashimoto's? Do you treat people with fibromyalgia? Do you treat in your clinic people that have got, cognitive issues? Do you treat rheumatoid arthritis? I'm like, yeah, we treat all of those things all day long because they are just a collection of symptoms with labs and bloods and so forth that go with them. But what's the reason? Why has your body and your immune system suddenly decided to have a banana and a panic attack and suddenly decided to have an inappropriate immune response? So why has your body done that? And so your new lens of having this, so Megan's just said, you've just listed off my autoimmune conditions. Oh, Megan, I'm so glad you're here. So Megan, now with this lens, I want you to think not about all the labels you've been given because they're irrelevant and useless, and all that label does for the physician is just apply medication to it. What I want the lens for you guys to be is, what's the root cause? Why? Why did this happen? Why has this happened to me? Start to be curious, start to learn, and start to understand. And so, like the real classic patterns that we see, especially when it comes to, thyroid conditions, for example, someone's had chronic fatigue when they were in uni, when they were 20, and it just, and they had that, which is the Epstein-Barr virus. And they just kind of mowed it along. They did okay. They felt pretty crap. Then they had a child and their body got stressed, or they had a divorce, or they lost a loved one, or there was trauma. There was something that pushed their body to the limit of stress and fatigue and pushed their bodies to the limit. And then, wow, suddenly I have an autoimmune condition. But it wasn't that you suddenly got an autoimmune condition. It was because there was an underlying issue that started it, whether it be blasto, someone's just written there, absolutely, parasites, Epstein-Barr virus, COVID virus, you name, streptococcus infections, E. coli overgrowth, SIBO, whatever you want to pick out of the sky, we've seen it all. And so what happens is, this is the root cause, but then the body is displaying it in a bunch of symptoms as being given a label. And those symptoms are inflammatory symptoms. Unfortunately, for those of you who've been diagnosed with all of these conditions, you're given steroids, you're given a label, you're given medication, and then you're not given really anything else. There's no hope. And the worst thing is, you're told that food and lifestyle and diet has nothing to do with it. But I can absolutely tell you now that food, lifestyle, diet, everything has absolutely everything to do with it. And you can turn this around in such a great way. So I'm just going to show you another great diagram. And this one, these will pop up in the Facebook group. So you can look at them in your own time, and you can click on it and really bring it out and unpack it. But this is another really great one when it comes to understanding food intolerances and understanding food sensitivities. And you can see it shows that villi there, which is the little kind of spiky bits there. And it shows on the right-hand side what is a leaky gut. Those junctions are too wide. And it talks about having steroids, stress, toxins, infections, stomach acid, low stomach acid. All of those things will cause a compromised gut, the leaky gut, to come open. And then you're going to see all of these pathogens coming through. And you're going to have them in your bloodstream, which is at the bottom there, dropping in, going to the bloodstream and stimulating that immune response. So this is another really cool one to look at as well. And it really tells us about, if your mucosal layer is nice and sticky, if you don't have that leaky gut, you're not going to have your food intolerances, and you're not going to have all of these conditions, because the body is working in unison. The body is working in harmony. So when we get back to that root cause again, I want to just show you this little example here, which is really, really cool. Really cool. This shows that continuum that I was just talking about then, which is basically if you have some form of infection, and this one's a great one. This is a Prevotella that we see in the gut. And there's some really great research on Prevotella and causing inflammatory arthritis, so arthritic conditions. And so you can see here how the Prevotella causes that dysbiosis, and then that causes the immune cells. So there's, the IL-6 there that you can see, and the Th17 and all those ones that you can see there. They're the inflammatory cells that have pepped up in the bloodstream. And then now those inflammatory cells have gone into the weak spot in your body. So for some people, that's your knees. So it can cause that inflammatory response. And if this is happening all day long, so this Prevotella is sitting there, you're eating gluten, you're eating carbs, you're eating sugar, you're having, you're drinking lots of alcohol, and you don't know how to look after your gut. You haven't been told how to do that. And so you are eating all the things that are feeding that Prevotella. And so every time you eat some carbs, some sugar, and it feeds that Prevotella, it stimulates what's called metabolites, which are these toxins. And those toxins then stimulate the immune system. And then the immune system goes, what's that? And then your knee becomes inflamed. Now, I've had multiple knee issues, and I had to have my meniscus cut out. So when I went in to have my surgery when I was younger and didn't know anything about this, unfortunately, they went in there and said, look, we probably just have to shave a little bit of your meniscus off and it'll be fine. And then they came out of I woke up out of the surgery and they said, actually, it was so bad we had to just cut the whole thing out. So they just cut my whole meniscus out. And so in my meniscus for many years, I didn't know that the streptococcus infections in my body were stimulating these inflammatory metabolites, and they were going to that compromised site where I don't have that meniscus anymore. Inflammation. And it was causing arthritis, so osteoarthritis, and quite significant osteoarthritis. So to the point that, I went and got an MRI, and, they were telling me, well, you're only about 30, but you've got osteoarthritis. Here's all the pain medication, here's all the steroids, and here's all the anti-inflammatories. It's like, what? I thought I looked after myself. What's going on here? I train, I do all the right things. But little did I know, my gut was so leaky. I had chronic gut infections, and I was creating such significant toxic metabolites in my body that weak spot in my body was just getting hammered, absolutely hammered. But the good news about that is that it's just so lovely that now, like and I'm due to get another MRI actually in the next couple of weeks, because now I go and get the MRI and I know it's my weak spot, but I know how to nurture it. I know what foods to eat. I know how important curcumin and turmeric is. I know how important my gut is to turn off those inflammatory markers. And I get it tested to see if there's any decline, and there hasn't been any decline. And so funny story. And I actually, I'll probably put up a post about this, but a really funny story about when I had my last MRI, when I moved up to the Sunshine Coast. I had a new surgeon, and he didn't know that I had all of this history in my knee. And he's like, oh dear, this is terrible. You've got arthritis. There's no way you can go hiking. There's no way you can do anything. You're going to have to take the steroids. And I said, but I'm not in any pain. I still play netball. I still run. I still carry a heavy pack. I said to him, I'm going to Tassie in a week for a week, carrying a huge backpack and going out into the wilderness. Like, I'm not here because I'm in pain. I'm here because I want to keep updated on how my knee's going, and if there is any decline, and to make sure that I care for it. Because yes, it's great if you know what the causes are and fixing it, but there's always going to be the fallout that you've got to make sure that you nurture before you knew all of this, which is what I do with my knee. And so this is a great example, but I see this with everything. I see this with headaches, and I see this with thyroid stuff. So, if you've got thyroid stuff, just replace the Prevotella with EBV, or just replace, staph infections, or just, you replace the infection and then it goes to a different part of the body. So I hope that helps you and explains it somewhat. So this concept of leaky gut is really important. So when I talked to you before about is our gut our friend or is our gut our foe, our gut absolutely is our friend, because within our gut, we make these incredible things called short-chain fatty acids. We make metabolites from our microbes that can create the most amazing amounts of energy, nutrients, vitamins, neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. And our gut is the epicenter of everything that we need in our body. And so we can create really amazing, great metabolites for our health and that support us. Or we can create metabolites like inflammatory responses. We can create metabolites like histamine. We can create metabolites that really impact our health. And so your aim is to, really support your gut to get into a balanced state that it's only producing beneficial compounds for energy, for health, for, mental health, for your immune system, for your detoxification. Your gut is working for you. Your gut, it's got all those soldiers and they're helping you to shine, as opposed to having a gut that is just full of toxins and full of, infections. And it's just, you're working against your gut. Your gut is causing the problem and causing that inflammation. And so this is how pathogens, cause and drive inflammation. And so I hope now you guys can see that there is this link between, is there a set link between bacteria and conditions? Yes, there is, absolutely. And it does change from person to person, Megan, depending on your, your genetics, and it will depend on your weak spots in your body. But there is definitely links that we can see. And but some people's susceptibilities, so our genes don't really dictate everything. We know now that our genes are a very, very small part to play in our overall health. So you can't get away with saying anymore, oh, my dad had diabetes, so I've got diabetes and therefore my son will have it. Or you can't say anymore that, oh, my mum had leaky gut and irritable bowel, so I'm just going to get it. Or like, my great-grandfather had bowel cancer. My nana had bowel cancer. My mum's got dodgy gut and she has worked so hard on improving it through the Culture Wellness Program. But that's not my story, because I know it was my story, but I know that we have our microbes within our body make up most of our body. It's something like 80-20 or 70-30 of our genes are only 30% of who we are, and our microbes are about 70% of who we are. And our microbes literally dictate whether we are in a state of balance and we're healthy, or our microbes will dictate if we are going to express those genetic implications and those family health histories. So if I keep my microbes ticking along beautifully and I look after my gut and I understand what's happening with my gut, I can therefore impact my genes, and I can turn off those issues, and I can stop at my generation. I can stop with me these gut conditions that I have in my family. On my other side, I have Alzheimer's in the family, and significant cognitive issues and all sorts of other stuff. And I have the power to switch that off through understanding what to do with my gut, which I have done by going through this journey. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so we know that our gut microbes play a huge part in whether we're producing inflammation or not. And we know that we need to do something about it. Now, how do you find this out? So this is the cool stuff. So one of my greatest, most amazing things that I will say, literally, they'll probably put it on my, headstone in my grave, is it's so important to test, don't guess. And this is an important thing for us because we need to know what's going on in our gut so we can start to make some changes. And so at Cultured Wellness, we use a test called Microba. And Microba is a lab that we have used for quite a few years now, where they test what's going on within your gut microbiome. And so you can actually see, do you have microbes in your gut that are going to cause an inflammatory response and therefore symptoms of an autoimmune condition or a cognitive condition or an inflammatory response? Do you have microbes in your gut that are doing that? Or do you have microbes in your gut that are actually just like supporting you and you're feeling awesome and they're helping you with your energy and helping you with your inflammation? So instead of jumping to conclusions and, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that and I'm going to do all of these crazy things and get all excited and try something new every day and go to the health food store and this week I'm going to try this parasite cleanse and this week I'm going to go over and try this and get all excited about everything, you spend a fortune doing that, which once again I did. And you can actually do yourself quite a lot of harm, and it's a scattergun approach. And so the best thing to do is to test what is going on in my gut. Are the microbes beneficial for me? Do I have any inflammation or overgrowths? And then you can really beautifully, calmly create a treatment plan that makes sure that you can rebalance your gut microbiome and therefore turn off the inflammatory switch. So that is the way that you're going to get the answers that you need, and you're going to be able to work towards making sure that you can get back to balance in your life. Now, when someone comes to work with us on the Culture Wellness program, so step one, we get people on our Kickstarter program to teach you how to be in ketosis. You learn all the foundational principles of using fermented foods, eating a therapeutic ketogenic diet, how to test if you're in ketosis. We teach you all those foundation principles, but you also order your Microba test at the same time that you start. And so when you're halfway through the program, your results come back, and then we're able to tailor your treatment plan from those results to move forward into what therapeutic herbs do we need? What more specifics do we need for you to make sure that we can turn this ship around? And so it's such a great way to have really targeted action plans, linear action plans, instead of try this and try that and the stress of this and cost that. It's a nightmare. You just don't want to go there. So Microba does test for parasites, and sometimes sometimes we may have to do an extra parasite test, but yes, they do now test for parasites. Okay, so Cassandra, I think I might have explained it to you that it is best to take a test before starting what program. So we have lots of programs at Cultured Wellness, and so when I start a workshop series, I always open my books. So I've opened my books for 10 people to come and work with me. That's all I've got space for. And so Candace will probably pop up a link if you need to work with me one-on-one. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, that's when you've got a chronic condition it's, you've just had enough. You need someone to guide you, to support you, to help you, and to offer that expert guidance every week. So you're accountable and you know what you're doing. Some people can't even read online modules. They can't understand the treatment plans. It's very overwhelming being sick. And so if you work with me in that one-on-one space, that's for 6 months. And at the start, we start with the program, and then you do your microba test at the start. So for this workshop, we've got the most awesome offer that you can come and work with me. And the bonus for working with me from joining this workshop is you'll get a free microba test from that. So we've joined forces with Microba, and so we're able to offer a free microba test when you work with me one-on-one. So Candice will pop up some links in there so you can see that. The other option that you can do is our self-paced guided programs, where you can do it at your own pace with the online learning, and you can join the Kickstarter program and then do the test at the start. And then once the test comes back in, you have your consult, and then we will give you your actionable treatment plan. And then we'll be able to tell you, you know what, you got a parasite and you've got an infection in your gut that's causing these things, that's happening to you, and we need to do this cleanse and we need to work through this treatment plan. And so the online programs are amazing. They're for people who really are happy to open modules. And obviously I come from an education background, and either in uni, and I forgot to tell you, I also taught in schools. I went on to teach in schools for many years once my kids were born. And so I come from that background. So it's really important that you know that there's a lot of resources there. You can open the modules, there's resources there, and you can learn either via video, hearing me talk, or you can learn from what's written underneath. And so you can go at your own pace and you can learn what you need to do. But I can also go into a lot of detail about that. But there was a few of you asking about the programs. All right, so have a look at those links and see what you think. Kids are off to bed. Yes. All righty. So when it comes to eating a ketogenic diet, I'm going to talk about that in the next live that we're going to do. So I'll be talking about, like, what are the foods that support you? What are the foods that don't and cause inflammation? And a little bit more about how do you test ketosis and how do you get into ketosis. So that's all very, very interesting, and I can't wait to share all that stuff with you. Now, the other thing is just to let you guys know that if you want to be part of my 10, because I'm opening up my books at the moment, if you want to book a discovery call with me, that I'd love to meet you. I really want to hear how we can help you and what's going on for you. So we do discovery calls. We have 20 minutes together. So you can book in a discovery call, and then you can just have a chat and we can work out which program's right for you. Do you need to work with me? Do you need to do a self-guided online program? And so take up that opportunity as well. But yeah, I'm excited. I always get excited when I open up my books for new crew. Misha, off to collect. Oh, okay, Misha, you're going to go and get your daughter. Cool. Alrighty, I'll see you on Wednesday. All right, guys. So I got a bit disjointed at the end there. But basically, the whole thing about tonight was I really wanted to really unpack for you where fatigue comes from. Inflammation comes from. And I wanted to give you that quick kind of snapshot of it's from your gut. And I wanted to explain the power of ketosis. So hopefully I've gone through all of that. Alrighty, so next talk, I'm going to be talking all about fatigue. What is fatigue and just being tired? Identifying those factors of fatigue, so nutritional deficiencies. I'm going to look at the deeper underlying causes of fatigue and the nutritional deficiencies. And also I'm going to talk about how to support your body after viruses and how to get back from viruses when you've got such chronic fatigue from that virus. So I'll give you a bit of tips and tricks for that, and how to create balance, so reducing that inflammation, which therefore reduces the fatigue. Okay, so there are so many questions, and I have not been able to get to them, and I just love all of your questions. So what I might do is just go through a few now, and then as Candice has been saying, or I'm also doing a couple of lives, so I'll definitely get back to them. Okay, so we had lots of talk about testing and not guessing. Judy, already on that hamster wheel. Oh, Judy, get off the hamster wheel. You can spend 10 years jumping around, spending a truckload of money. You test, don't guess. I should also say at Culture Wellness, we test hormone function, heavy metals, we test for mold. We do all of the testing that you would expect in a clinic. We also can support you to do blood tests as well through a private lab that we use. So if you haven't got an understanding GP, and if you haven't got, someone that can really support you, don't worry about, well, who am I going to get my testing through and bloods and so forth. So we've set up Culture Wellness as that kind of one-stop shop, so you don't have to worry about that. Cool, Cassandra. Okay. Just going through. So, yes, the stool tests are very informative, very, very informative. So testing for SIBO. So that's a great question. So in your microba test, we will be able to see who are the microbes that are living within your gut that are causing those metabolites that cause SIBO symptoms. So this is another thing that I get a little bit disappointed about. So the SIBO test, which is the breath test, yes, it shows that you've got you've got a lot of metabolites in your gut. It will show you whether you've got too much fructose. It will give you all of these indications if you've got fermentable sugars that your gut's producing. But once again, it just stops there. It then doesn't tell you, well, who's creating that in your gut? Or why is that happening? You don't suddenly wake up one day and just start producing all these fermentable sugars. And then the scary thing about that is that people then start eating a low FODMAP diet if they've got SIBO. And then, like what happened to me, then you start eating a low FODMAP diet and you end up doing it for like 2 years. And when you look at how important a lot of those FODMAP foods are for the gut microbiome, then it starts to look really scary, because onions, for example, which is a FODMAP, is so important when it comes to liver function. It's a prebiotic. It's got all of these incredible nutrients in it. And people just cut them out of their diet when they're told, oh, you've got SIBO and you've got to cut all FODMAP foods out. But it then doesn't say, oh, but you've got SIBO because you've got a strep infection, or you've got an E. coli overgrowth, or you've got egglotheria in your gut. We've got to get the one step further to find out the reason why. Not just, oh, this is what's happened. Got to go the one step further. Okay. Alrighty, so everyone's got to go, and I probably should too. I've got to go and check to see if the kids are okay. Okay, Kate, what's the best way to get in touch? So in the comments here, Kate, there is a link to do a discovery call with me if you need, or you can post a question on the Facebook group, or you can send us an email at info@culturedwellness.com, and you can ask whatever question you want. So we're here for you. Okay, guys, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I feel like I've only just just touched the surface of all the amazing things that I want to tell you. So I'm so glad we've got so many more lives and so much more opportunity to talk. And we will announce tomorrow the winner of the free cooking class. So for and we just choose it at random. So watch out for that. Hopefully one of you has won. And please keep posting questions. Really just share in the Facebook group. It's a super safe space. We want you to tell us what's going on for you so we can best support you. That's why we're here. And I'll see you in the next live. See you, everyone.